going on, golf fans? It's your boy Gsluke here with our round 2 prop and betting stream for the Fedex St Jude Championship. Gonna go through everything you guys need for tomorrow, including some stat averages, a weather report as well as how to attack the Underdog and PrizePicks boards and matchups on the sports books. But any sort of exposure on top of that you guys are curious about, feel free to let me know in the chat. Looks like we got Antonio down there early, also Go Collect as well, the sweatiest of all the sweaty tryhards. Hopefully you're having a fantastic Thursday. And yeah, don't be shy at all to hit me up with any specific questions that you've got. But we're going to start it off with a look at the averages, then weather, and then we're going to talk through some of my exposure. But because I am feeling way under the radar right now, or under the weather, I should say, still dealing with that chest cold, this is going to be a much quicker live stream. In fact, it's going to be more so like a video format. I'm really going to keep it on pace just so that I don't have to yap as much. That way I can save my voice for the next few days. But while you guys are here live, smash that like button first off. And then, like I said, let me know if there's any bets that you want me to go through. But let's start it off with the averages on the screen, which I've got round 1 at the St. Jude up, but also the Live Chicago stuff, because that event starts tomorrow and it's at the same golf course that they played last year. So we're going to have that board to go through on PrizePicks. But for the sake of this live stream, we're going to focus on the PGA stuff first. So top end of the board, you can see the scoring average, which was minus 0.91, which pretty much the golf course in general played exactly how I thought it would. I thought it would play a little bit harder than last year, which is exactly what we got. And the bogey average went up a bit, and also that fairway average went up. And I also called for the green average to go down from the 11.25 mark that you had the year prior. Pretty much everything lined up, but it didn't end up working out for my exposure. I ended up going 0 for 4 in my slips, which is really not very common when I end up on the schneid for it, but went 1-1 with 2.5 hooks, keeping me from full cashes. So it wasn't like the leans weren't there. Golf course actually played even better than I thought it was going to. But with the similar weather forecast for round 2, it's not going to change very much. So it's good to see that my read ahead of time was there. And because the weather, you can see over here on this other tab, looks so similar to what we had for today, those averages are going to be especially useful. So with the weather forecast, you can see the winds aren't kicking up very much at all, about 6 to 8 miles an hour of sustained wind. And your wind gusts, though they're maybe a little higher than what you had for today, they were closer to maybe 7 to 8 miles an hour at the very most. You can see tomorrow there's a little pockets where it gets close to 10, maybe even 15 miles an hour during the morning wave. It might play like 0.1 stroke harder than round number 1, but the pin locations could easily move that back in the other direction. So I would say around this minus 0.9 scoring average is pretty much spot in line with what I'm expecting for round number 2, which means that these other categories, whether it's birdies, bogeys, fairways, or greens, I'm also not expecting to move very much. So maybe for the stroke average, we put it between like a half a stroke under par to -1, give or take like 0.1 to maybe 0.15 strokes in either direction. Your birdie average, probably going to stay about 4 per round. Your bogey or worse average, probably going to stay about 2.75 per round. And same thing with this bottom 2, right? Like maybe it goes up by 0.1 or 0.2 in either direction with the fairways or the greens, but this gives us a really good sense for how this golf course is playing. So that being said, let's talk about some of our exposure that we like. And we are going to come back to the live golf stuff towards the end, just to give you guys some thoughts on that slate. But for the PGA side of things, the slip that I've taken so far is on the Underdog side. So it's going to be some unders on greens, which if you guys were here at the live stream yesterday, you'll know that I was the most confident about those green regulation unders, and it's going to be a lot of the same for round 2. That aspect of the course is not going to change. You have the tiny greens. They're very bouncy now that they're firmer after renovation. So I'm taking these 2 unders, and one of which was one of those 0.5 hooks that I was mentioning before. And I'm going right back to it. Maverick hit 12 of his 18 today, and we'll say hit 12 of his 18 because 4 of his green regulations hit for to like 65 feet. These are tiny greens, so the fact that you can even hit it to 65 feet is surprising, but he found a few green complexes around TPC Southwind where you can hit a shitty shot yet still hit the green complex. One of which was on 10. The pin location was on the very front of that green. He hit it to the back right corner, had like an 80-foot putt to try and get down for 2 on par, and was able to do so. McNeely only gained about 0.4 strokes approach today and went over this sort of number. And if we go back to the averages, average was only 10.78 per round. To get to 12, you've got to gain over a green to the field to do so. And when we take a look at the averages for the year, he's above average, at least compared to the PGA Tour. But when we consider that this field only has the top 70 players on tour in it, he's about average at best when it comes to this category. And when you add on top of it, if you go hole by hole, you guys will see what I'm talking about with McNeely. Even when he was hitting greens outside of the holes that he was making birdie on, which obviously hit it to a reasonable distance if he was capitalizing on that putt, there were a ton of them that were like 50 plus feet. So I'm going to take my chances against him again. He already had a decent day, and that's what got him over by that 0.5. But if we get a little bit of luck going in our direction this time around, maybe bounces that land on the green and going off, then we're going to be in a really good spot to hit that kind of under. But this is mostly just line value here, trying to take an average player that's at 11.5. And the average is looking like it's going to be closer to 10.75 to maybe like 10.8 per round. And then the other one I took here too, this is not the full slip, by the way. We're going to add something on top of it. So don't just go entering these two together. I guess you could for 2.85x if you wanted to, but we're going to juice that up to 5.1x here in just a second. But let's take this Keegan Bradley under on greens as well. So if we go to the averages for this year, he's actually even worse than Mav McNeely. He ranks out number 94 on tour in the category. So we'd say in the top tier field like this, that is below average for sure when it comes to hitting greens regulation. So you may ask yourself, a below average to maybe average green regulation player, why the heck would he be above that number? And when you take a look at his form heading in over his last 12 rounds, he's losing about a third of a stroke approach per round as well. So it's not even like he's hitting those irons well to begin with. And this course, TPC Southwind, is not a track that he has all that good of course history at either. So he's got the course history working against him, lower tier in this category. And the thing that I think makes Maverick a better play, though, than Keegan Bradley, I still like Keegan, at least on paper with the stats. He might be the better play between the two. It's just how Maverick did it today. I mean, hitting all those greens to like 50 to 60 feet just screams unsustainability. Keegan Bradley was missing all over the park off the tee. He wasn't so much having problems with his second shot, but he was setting himself up for failure to begin with. He lost, I think it was like 1.5 to 2 strokes in the off the tee. There was a tee shot on 14 that he put in the water, tee shots where he was only hitting them like 250 yards and offline off the tee. If he's going to do that, and the other thing I'll add on top of this with Keegan is if he's going to set himself up for failure, then I really like this under. But maybe it's the captain stuff. I mean, he's got a lot going on right now at the Ryder Cup. That's probably his main focus at this time of the year. Not so much hitting balls, staying on top of his iron play. So that might be part of the reason why his stats have started to fall off. But yeah, I like that on Keegan, and I like this under on Maverick as well. So partially because I want to spite Maverick and go back to the fade after he screwed us today. But let's mix this in with Erik van Rooyen. So Erik van Rooyen's an over on birdies I'm going to play. So a positive stance play to kind of offset this. And even though it has this 0.83x payout on it, it gives us over 5x because it's anti-correlated. So let's talk about the EVR prop. Average was 4 per round today, so obviously over that 3.5 mark. And if we take a look at EVR stats for the year, so let's click on stats, let's go to scoring, let's go to birdie or better percentage and find it that way. You see that he's number 25 on tour in the category. And it's not even just this year. If you go to the year before that, Erik van Rooyen was the number 38 birdie maker on tour. And if we go to the season before that as well, and it's not even like he was like a top tier player those years, right? He was average to maybe above average for most of those seasons. Number 27 on tour when it comes to birdie or better percentage. So though he shot way over par today, in fact, if we go to the shots gained metrics, he shot +4. He lost in most categories. The ball striking was half decent. He was about a neutral between those two categories and gave away all of his strokes with the short game. And you know, a lot of weeks after one bad round like this, we might worry about the mental aspect and them checking out. But keep in mind that this is a no-cut event. So players like Erik van Rooyen are guaranteed a full 4 rounds. And because he's on the bubble to begin with, he's got a lot to play for. I mean, if he wants any chance of getting into next week, I think he needs like a top 5, a top 10. And if you're starting at +4 and you've only got 54 holes left to work with, he needs a crap ton of birdies. So I know that he's going to be aggressive. He really has nothing to lose at this point. I mean, if he finishes at the bottom end of the board, this will be his last week of the year, which I think will give him some freedom. I mean, he's got nothing, like I said, nothing to lose at this point after having such a shitty start. And if you take a look at his sportsbook line odds, I think he's like -170 towards the over or something. So that's why we're getting this 0.8x multiplier. But because we're taking 2 fades and then the positive stance play, we're getting a half decent payout on a site like Underdog. Like, for example, this would be about the same kind of payout that you would get on a 3-leg on Prize Picks with 2 fades and then 1 positive stance play, almost the exact kind of payout. Sometimes they give you 5.25x. A lot of times they're only giving you 5x. So it might be better in some cases. But we're also getting a prop here in Eric Van Rooyen. We got to add this on top of that. That's minus 170, minus 180 juice, right? We would never get that on a site like Prize Picks before. So that's why I think if you're going to take these anti-correlated slips, which is kind of what I'm looking at, because to go back to these averages, and we're going to keep this one quicker because of how I'm feeling. So we're not going to go through every piece of exposure that I'm really eyeing at this point. Patreon page will be where I'm posting all of those. I don't have to speak in front of a camera, right, to post stuff on my Patreon page. I can still get into the lab, find some value and whatnot for my people. But like the fairway board, if you look at that, it went up from like 7.5 last year. I thought it would go up to maybe 8 per round. It actually went up the whole way to 8.55. So we might be able to find some positive stance plays because of that. They didn't change the pricing for fairways all that much. Maybe you do it for birdies too. Birdie average was 3.8 per round last year. So you might even be able to find some positive value there, like we did on Eric Van Rooyen. But these other categories, like bogeys or worse or greens regulation, they're harder than the year before. And because these sportsbooks really didn't move the odds that much after round 1, there's fade value on some of those boards to attack. So I actually really like how the slate is setting up just because they didn't move the pricing around all that much. And as we can see with the round 1 metrics, there was a lot of movement compared to what we had before. And, some people might chalk that up to a small sample size thing, which I could kind of agree with if this was any other event. But what we have to keep in mind about this event is that it was after renovation, right? It's not just like any random year where it played easier or harder for one given round. This was after an intentional change of the golf course. So there's, I would say, a better chance than most for this to be legit and to carry out throughout the rest of the week. And the icing on top of that, and the reason why I really like those leans, is it's the exact same kind of weather situation. I mean, it's almost a carbon copy and paste from what we had on Thursday, which I think makes it a really good slate to go out there and attack. So that's the PGA side of things. I'm going to see if there's any bets that you guys want us to deep dive. The live golf stuff, we'll cover that real quickly. We're not going to go through a slip on that side of things, but I do want to give you guys the information from last year. It was a par 70. Stroke average was 0.1 over par, so that's a 70.1. And the birdie average was 3.34 per round. And I'll bring up the weather report as well. It does look maybe not super windy in Bolingbrook tomorrow, but 10 miles an hour of sustained wind, closer to 15 miles an hour of wind gust isn't anything that you can ignore. Probably going to play pretty similar to what we had in 2024, but I'm not as tuned into the live golf stuff. I'm probably going to play it lightly, if at all, for round number 1. I'll probably just try and get some data tomorrow, right? Try and get a sense for exactly how the golf course is playing and further leverage it for rounds 2 and 3. And it's not just the fact that we don't have as much information on it, or at least I don't. I'm not as plugged in for the live golf this week. It's also because of the selection. We only have a strokes board on Prize Picks to work with, and there's 8 players to choose from. But I would say based on the averages that we had from last year, about a 70 scoring average, like maybe you could look at an under on a guy like Sergio. Like him shooting -1 feels pretty reasonable if the scoring average is going to be about 70. He is a above average player on that side of things, but some of these other guys, I feel like they're at a pretty decent projection. So I'm going to keep it pretty light on the live golf side of things. But for anyone that is considering adding any exposure there, wanted to throw that out there for some of your exposure. And then the last thing we're going to go through before I open it up to those questions is going to be the one matchup bet that I've already placed, which is going to be on a Sam Burns. Let me go ahead and actually refresh this. Let's see. So I can bring up that matchup. So it's Sam Burns versus Justin Rose. See if we can find the exact odds on those. I probably just went by it on here, so let's just search up Rosie. What, did they take that off? Or am I looking at the wrong category or whatnot? Let's see. So we go to matchups. Looks like we might be able to find it over here. Or what are they doing with this? This is what I mean about Hard Rock Bet, is they kind of screw it up when you're trying to find the odds on here. If it's not showing on the browser version, which I'm not sure why that would happen, the bet I took was Sam Burns versus Justin Rose. So if you're on a site like Draftkings, they're going to have that posted, FanDuel, et cetera, and I got him for -135. And shout out to my guy Tyler from my Patreon page. He did give me this information last night. If you actually click on these guys, so for example, you click on that first matchup and then you go down here to this, you can take them without the tie in play. So that's where you can find the Sam Burns at -135. I think the market with a tie is like -110, but I'd rather take that -135 And let me show you why I like those two. So let's go to the matchups. Let's put in a Burns. Let's also put in a Justin Rose. So if you take a look at that sample size, and we'll take it to the last 24 rounds, not just round number 1. Sam Burns is leading in every single category but around the green. Whether it's shots gained total, he leads by about a stroke per round, regular raw score, ball striking metrics, all favoring a Sam Burns here. And then when you add on top of that their course history, Sam Burns is top 5 out of everyone in the field in shots gained at TPC Southwind. Justin Rose on the other side of things is average to below average when it comes to the form at TPC Southwind. They give me the course history, the better form player, the better player in general. I mean, no one would contend that at this point, right? Sam Burns in his prime versus an older, over-the-hill Justin Rose. You're going to take Sam Burns 99% of the time there. So at that minus 135, again, I have no idea why it's not showing up right now, but it was up there about 5 minutes before we got on the live stream, a prop that I was willing to mix in myself. But that's all I've got in right now, guys. If you check out my Patreon page, those are the only bets that I've got posted. But as the night goes on, there will probably be even more exposure added over there. So if you guys want to see every single bet that I'm taking for these slates, also stat averages for every round, I post these for my members, and I post looks at the weather reports before every single round as well. Make sure to join up over there. You can find a link in the description of the video to join that. $15 a month in the prop tier is how you get access to all of this information, which is for rounds 1 through 4. So not only every slip, but also those averages and all the explanations and process for me getting to my plays to teach you guys to be a better of golf. But that's all we've got for the round 2 live stream. Best of luck with everything that you guys are going with. We are going to finish it up with some of that Q&A that you guys might have in the chat. But that's essentially it for the program here. So if there's anything else that you guys are curious about, make sure to let me know in the chat right now, because we're going to wrap this thing up after we get through some of those. So where we leave off, we got Marcus in chat. He said accurate again. Yeah, accurate. Hopefully we can make it count a little bit more this time. That would be nice for round number 2. It's going on quantitative as well. Welcome on in. He said Pendrith hit 8 greens on the front and then only 3 on the back and got the 0.5 hook. So yeah, I didn't play that one myself, but that's rough, right? Sometimes you have good leans that don't end up getting there. Don't beat yourself up about it, Antonio. I think the main thing you want to focus on is taking the right props ahead of time. If they run good, you go 10-0, great. If you end up going like 4-6 and having a bad day, then so be it. Just make sure that you're getting that good CLV. That's really a good sense of whether you're entering the better stuff. He said, for the 14th pin tomorrow, do I think that'll play tougher? Let's take a look. They didn't have the pin sheet up beforehand, so let me just bring up Twitter so we can go through that together. We're not going to go through every pin here just because I do need to save my voice at this point. I've got bronchitis, so I can't fuck around with it too much. But hole 14, which is in the middle right side, yeah, probably a little bit more so in play with the water. It was closer towards the bunker today. Now it's a little bit shorter, but tucked towards the right. Yeah, more water balls, I would say for sure there. He said Hovland couldn't hit a fairway to save his life after hitting the first 5. Sounds about right. It's tough to hit these fairways at this golf course, at least if you're hitting driver. And that was probably why he had the problem. He was tilted. He was like +4, just banging driver a little bit too much. Thoughts on Sanjay for the under at 10.5 greens? So yeah, with the average at about 10.75, Sanjay, who by the way ranks well below the tour average in the category, might be somebody you'd consider for the under. Now, I prefer the guys at 11.5 because, I mean, even an average day would be an under for those kind of players. But yeah, Sanjay, if I was looking at the 10.5s, he'd be at the top of that list. Like I know they have a Harry Hall at 10.5. He ranks a little bit better in this category. Sanjay M is 161 at hitting greens regulation. So yeah, I can't give you too much pushback on that one. He said, do I like Burns for the over at 4 birdies? So that wasn't something I've entered myself or anything, but I do have to say, given the field average was about 4 per round, that I'm highly tempted to take guys like Sam Burns at that number. Jordan Spieth was at 4. I was kind of looking at that one before we got on the live stream here because they're better than average players. The only hesitation I have, and I don't think it's enough hesitation to keep me off of some of those plays, is that the push equity is by far the most likely outcome. Like them pushing at 4 is going to happen probably 30-40% of the time on that sort of thing. But then we've got to ask ourselves, of the other 60 to 65% equity, are they going over or under more, right? That's essentially the question. And I would say they're going to go over more than they go under, because with a Burnsy, Jordan Spieth, we could say the same thing about. They're above average birdie makers. So I haven't entered it myself yet, but that is something I'm going to take a look at later tonight. What's going on, Sava? You said, well done on the Berger, Fleetwood, and Morikawa 2 balls. Yeah, I have to say the pick'em props as I've mentioned, maybe weren't my best today, but we did go 3-0 on those 2-ball bets. So that was pretty nice. And I got 10-1 on them. So I got pretty good odds because I took them with the tie and I parlayed them together. So that made up for it plus some. So glad to hear that you took advantage of that too. Do I like Hideki for the over on 4 birdies? Yeah, he'd be another one. I know we had the question about the Sam Burns over. He's got elite tier course history. And I mentioned that with Burns, he's top 5 in the field. Hideki's number 2 in the field when it comes to form at TPC Southwind. Number 1, by the way, for anyone curious, is Daniel Berger. So if you're looking for the course history angle, those 3 guys wouldn't be the worst bets. You're looking at Xander versus Sibu on the matchup under. So yeah, the under with the 0.5 is tempting. I do have to say that Xander, though, is a stud. It's always kind of hard to want to fade those guys. But Sibu Kim did look really good today. So yeah, I would rather take the under than the over, I would say on that one. Hey, Luke, you said is Glover for the over on 4 birdies or under 69 makes sense? Kind of adding it in there. I would rather have your like Burnses of the world. I'd rather have your Hidekis personally, but yeah, that's what I'll say about it. I think 4 or maybe 69 strokes makes a lot of sense. In an elite tier field like this, Lucas Glover is a slightly below average player, and that's by no means a diss, right? Like he's borderline Hall of Famer. I mean, he's a major champion, multiple time tour winner. We give him his roses around here. We love Lucas Glover. He's a fellow Luke, for goodness sakes. However, top 70 field like this, he's below average. Let's be honest about it. But this is a golf course that he's won at before. So I'm personally grading him about the field average, which with the 4 average today on birdies, I think that's a pretty good projection. And then the scoring average was just a hair over 69 strokes as well. So I actually think that those 2 projections are pretty spot on. He said you're also eyeing Cam Young for the over on fairways. He had 10 today. He's been swinging it well. Yeah, especially because it's a layup golf course. I'm okay taking some guys that maybe aren't the most accurate drivers for that. And just to go back to the stats, let's go to off the tee. Let's go to driving accuracy. This is the one reason to not take that, right? Is that if we go to Cam Young, he's number 163 on tour hitting fairways, which is among the worst. I mean, we only have to scroll down here a little bit to find the exact bottom. But if there is a course where you might take a chance on somebody that's a really bad driver to hit fairways, it's at a course where he doesn't have to bang that driver. Like there were guys today like Ben Griffin that might only have hit like 2 to 3 drivers on the entire round, kind of like what he did at Sedgefield in the Wyndham Championship. Maybe Cam Young takes that approach. And I'm assuming if he hit 10 fairways, that he probably didn't hit that many drivers. So that could be a good look there. If you're looking at Berger for the under at 69, I could see that one. He's I would say an above average player in this kind of field, at least at this golf course. The shots gained metrics would have him as about average, but Lucas Glover, right? Like he gets a bump from slightly below average to average because of the course history. Berger's number 1 in the field when it comes to playing at TPC Southwind. So even if we have him as a tour average player in this field, we've got to give him that slight bump. So I'd be okay with that one, a little bit more so than the Glover one. He said, you're late to the party. Hey, better to have you late than never, my dude. Welcome on in. He said, feel better. Thank you, guys. I'm doing my best with this. I had some honey and tea. I think it was my guy Jose last night that told me about that. It actually worked wonders. I was hacking before, but we're doing much better now. He said, do I like Lowry for the under at 69.5? 69.5. Yeah. I mean, if I could take him at even money at that number, I for sure would. I just don't think he's at even money, right? He's got to have some kind of juice behind that. I'm just going to double check though. Let's see. So yeah, he's at 69 on Prize Picks. Let's see what he's at on Underdog. Did I miss that one before? Let's see. So he does have a multiplier on Underdog. If you can get him on a site at even money, though, I would be running to the window to play that. Yeah, matching the field average, shooting -1, 69 was about what we had for today. Very reasonable for a player of his caliber. He said, is Clark the real deal? I mean, he's a major champion, so yeah, he's definitely the real deal. I would say the reason why he's playing better now is that he's in a better spot mentally. Some of the anger management issues probably got to him earlier this year. So, not the easiest guy to root for, but glad to see that he's playing better at least. He said, am I attacking Colin for the under on strokes again? So I haven't entered it myself yet. I actually went over all the props I've entered so far in this live stream, but I would say at 68.5, I mean, you've got to gain a stroke to the field to cover that. If the scoring average is going to be about -1 again, that's a decent lean. I mean, there's a reason why I took it today. I'd have to take a look at the sportsbook line to see exactly if it's value, but yeah, I could get behind that one. He said he missed me on the Ship It Nation live stream, but just wanted to say to get well. Thank you, Chris. I appreciate that. And I think I'm getting over it so far. Again, fingers crossed. I'm literally knocking on wood, not to jinx myself, but I'm starting to feel a little bit better. So I appreciate that. He said, what in the world do we do with Hovland? I'll tell you what to do. You play him in a format where the upside can bink you a good payout. But if he screws up, it's like, so be it. So the perfect example for that would be like a large field GPP for fantasy. GPP, by the way, if you're not really like a fantasy player, are the really big contests that you enter on DraftKings, where there's like 10,000 entries that you're playing against. If you're going to use Hovland, you use him in that kind of format where if he happens to shoot -6 tomorrow, it'll really help you pay off. But I mean, his floor is so low. I mean, he's got a really good chance to probably shoot over par again that you don't want to do it on a 50-50 format. So for example, like on a pick'em site like this, you wouldn't want to take him for like an under on strokes or an over on greens, because even if he has a decent day, you're only going to get close to, I don't know, plus 100 odds at best. More than likely, like -125 to -140 odds on a pick'em site. You don't want to do that, right? You don't want to bet on a coin flip kind of scenario. You want to bet him where if he has his stuff tomorrow, you take advantage of it in a big way. So that's what you do with Hovland, and that's what I'm personally doing myself. I'll be playing him in fantasy. He said Hovland either goes nuclear tomorrow or has the 3 water balls. That is exactly correct. I couldn't have said it better myself. So yeah, plan accordingly would be a good way to put it. What's going on, Jose? Yeah, there he is. He's telling me about the honey and tea before. He said he just made $500 off of Chase touchdowns and Jake Elliott for the extra points. Can't wait for NFL season, man. I don't do any of the preseason betting when it comes to the pick'em stuff, but super excited for that in less than a month. That'll be a big thing we're talking about on the channel. I think you know that, Jose, though, because you were back for last year on NFL. So yeah, stoked for that. I'm glad to hear that you found some success, though. Those preseason ones can be a little bit tough. And then you said thoughts on the unders on strokes for Scheffler and Bhatia. Go Birds, by the way. Ooh, the other Pennsylvania team, but we'll let it slide because you're on the other side of the conference. Let's go through those two for you. So under on Scheffler, strokes, and Bhatia. Bhatia, I think, is at 68.5, but let's see. Is he at 68.5 or 69? At 69 strokes with that push equity, I could get behind that one. I mean, that's about the tour average or field average in this field. He's I would say about a field average player. But when we look at the shots gained metrics from today, so let's go back to tournament and show you guys that. I mean, he's in first place. That kind of speaks for itself, but he did it in a sustainable fashion. It wasn't like he gained 5 strokes putting. He gained 5 strokes with his approach play. So yeah, I could get behind that. And then Scotty Scheffler, is he at 67 strokes? That's assuming where he's at. So he's at 66.5. Yeah, I kind of wish he was at 67. If he was, I was going to say a lot of the same as what I said with Akshay. I probably like the Akshay one a little bit more. I mean, shooting -4 at this course, shooting is 66. If anyone's going to do it, it's going to be Scotty Scheffler, but that's going to be gaining 3 strokes to the field, which is far from trivial, even for the world's best player. And he said Lowry is -120 on DraftKings with the boost. I would enter that in a heartbeat, man. If I got even close to even money at that 69.5, then sign me up for sure. So I can't enter anything on DraftKings myself down here in South Florida. But if you guys have access to that kind of a book, then by all means take advantage of it. But that's all I've got for now. Going to cut off the live stream a little bit earlier than most. I do apologize, guys. Just trying to do what I can here, right? It literally hurts my throat when I talk. So it's literally bearing it out for you guys as much as I can. But make sure to check out the Patreon page for every single piece of content that I'm doing for round 2. And I see you guys for the round 3 live stream tomorrow night. So if you guys learned something from this stream, you guys want to catch all the content throughout the rest of the week, make sure you guys subscribe so you guys don't miss any of that when it goes live. And yeah, join the Patreon page for every single slip that I'm going with.